And if I guessed, he chased him roughly 600 yards and absolutely plowed him over. I mean, I could hear it like boom. And this thing, you could hear it roll. You could hear blah, blah, like the little buck's just like, please, like saying stop. Runs him all over. And there's like crap breaking. And I was like, holy crap.
And I look up the hill about 80 yards from me, and there was a buck that I had seen earlier, probably like 120-ish inch 8-point. And he's being pushed by, no joke, like a 170. Like, giant. All I saw was just dark horns, and I told him, I was like, dude, his G4s look like they were 10 inches tall. Like just huge, massive deer.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder that the time of the season is approaching where the best tactic out in the woods is time in the stand. As the weather gets colder and the rut heats up, make sure you are able to be out there as long as possible when it matters the most. That's why we use Numa outdoor gear. Down here in the south, before it gets cold, it gets really wet. So something that's been staying in my hunting pack is their Kaza 3L Element Proof rain jacket and pant. They're lightweight, quiet, and it packs down nicely in your bag when you aren't using them. Then when the weather gets really cold and nasty, I switch to the Torrent jacket and pant. It's perfect to get you through that heavy rain, snow, or wind. To check them out, visit www.numaoutdoors.com and use code HA20 for 20% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We got some pretty sweet guests on the show today, but I'm going to introduce my co-host first, Jacoby Gaylord. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, man. You're so sweet for doing that. It's going good. It's going good. I feel like we don't need to talk about the most recent hunts that we've been on just because I think we just did that.
It is the 20th of November, though. Have you guys got any of the rain?
That's what it did today is it just piss poured. And, like, I was thinking the cameras were going to light up a little bit, but all it was just doe and, like, there's a couple of those little nub bucks. And I'm like, listen, you stick around too long, you come in the right way, it might happen.
Yeah. I guess it's pouring down here pretty good, but it's still hot. Like we're still on the front end of the good front. It's supposed to get really, really cold next week. So I enjoyed the rain because it doesn't make me feel nearly as bad when I'm not out in the woods. I'm like, well,
yeah,
at least it's raining. So, but yeah, we talked a little bit about kind of what we've been doing on our hunts in our recent Hunt Talk episode that aired on Friday, but we do got some cool guests on today. So a couple folks, some, I guess you call them Oklahomies.
Natives?
Natives. Some guys that have been hunting Oklahoma, Kansas, have them on the podcast before, so they're repeat offenders. So we got Trey and Connor from Whitetail Mission. So we'll bring them in and see what's been popping off on their side of the woods. What's up, guys?
How are you?
Good. How have you guys been? By the way, it's good to see you guys back on social media. I know you weren't taking a break, but when I saw you guys were going to be doing your own thing, doing the podcast and everything again, that got me excited because I enjoyed watching y'all's Kansas and Oklahoma videos.
we missed doing it, and that's why we came back. We enjoyed, our little vacation from it, trying other things, but the more we talked, the more we wanted to come back and do this because it's why we started in the first place. We just enjoyed doing it ourselves and what we had going. And, we had kind of a reason we started it, which was, to have these videos and memories and different things for forever for our kids and, our family. And that was another thing too. Our friends and family were, they were always mentioning it and missed seeing our stuff. And I don't know, the more we talked about it, the more we wanted to go back and do our own thing. So that was that.
Now let me ask you this. Is it any less stressful, like not doing that and then being out in the woods? Or is it like one of those things where it's like, it's bittersweet?
They were still filming. They were just filming for someone else.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, honestly, it was more stressful doing that, at least for me. I don't know about Connor. Connor does a lot of our tech stuff, so maybe it was less stressful for him. But I felt like doing it with somebody else it felt like there was more pressure to perform. You know what I mean? Like, we got to kill a good deer. We got to do this. We got to, even though those guys were super nice, I was like, hey, like, there's no obligations whatsoever. You feel that way. So doing our own thing, we can kind of go at our own pace, do it our own thing. Cause it's just, you don't feel like you got somebody sitting there waiting on you, whether you do or don't,
Yeah. What about for you, Connor? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think that I didn't really feel pressure. Obviously I wanted to feel like you almost want to prove yourself. Like, I know what I'm doing. There's a reason that they wanted us to be a part of the group. And we really, I mean, what it started with is we worked the Mobile Hunters Expo, and we went up to Michigan, and we worked with Chris and Josh and Rick and the rest of the team, and they wanted to do a meeting and asked if we wanted to film with them. And I will say I mean, we're not great about it. We are probably some of the least consistent people. We'd like to say we're consistent with the podcast, like you guys are. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we talked about consistency, and we're like, oh yeah, like Christian and Jake, Hunter's Advantage. I mean, it's super consistent. So taking a break was kind of at night. It was nice at first, but we got to the point where we missed doing things like the podcast, or if we wanted to make a video and put up a video, I mean, that was our choice. And it wasn't like if we had an idea, they would immediately say no or anything like that. It's just, you don't feel like you have the freedom to make as many of those choices because you're working with someone. And it was cool. We met a lot of cool people working the expo and being with those guys. But it's just after a year, we kind of just, even if it is a little more stressful doing your own thing because you want to be consistent, we just miss doing it because it's kind of, if you don't take it serious, it kind of feels, you feel like kind of like a kid, like trying to make a little page or whatever. But when you take it serious, I mean, the podcast I love so much because it gives you the opportunity to talk with guys that you don't normally get to talk to and learn things. Because it's kind of awkward if you just ask some random guy, like, hey, you want to talk on the phone for an hour? I'd like to pick your brain a little bit. But when you stick a mic in front of them and you record it, everyone's like, oh, sure, podcast sounds great. So it's really, I mean, selfishly, when we do podcast episodes, it's first, I mean, I like the selfish side of it. I like to pick people's brains and learn more. And so we missed that side of it a bit. So it was really refreshing kind of getting to do that again. And we're not the most consistent, but every time we get to schedule one with somebody, it's always a good time. And we always feel like we learned something. So that was the biggest thing that I missed. And even if there's a little stress that comes with it, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I assume you guys are the same way because me and Christian, what we'll do most of the time, at least during hunting season, and then even throughout the summer and spring, we'll have an hour and a half conversation almost daily, either about hunting or like something hunting related. And it's like, at that point, it's like you might as well just jump on, press record, and because we're going to be talking about it anyway, so you might as well just do this.
I couldn't tell you how many times we've had phone conversations and we're like, why the heck are we not recording this?
Yeah.
Like we have we literally pick each other's brains for hours on end, and we're making plans and working things out and like making all these different decisions about what we're going to do, what we need to do, this and that. We don't record any of it, and then we're like, man, some of this stuff would be killer podcast. I don't know if anybody want to listen to it, but it would be content.
Dude, yeah, for sure. I feel the exact same way. I just need to press record. You can record on iPhone calls now too, so that's what you should do.
Really?
Yeah, you can. You can. It'll tell the other person though, so it's like recording. And so I try to do it with scammers sometimes, and they're like, "Are you recording me?" I'm like, "No, no, it's good." But so we're getting here towards I guess we're in the mid to sort of late part of November now. It feels like season for us has been friggin' months and months long. What's your guys' temperature check right now? Like, are you guys excited about what's going to happen the next couple of weeks? Are you feeling like it's winding down? Like, what have you guys seen in the woods recently?
So I feel like the end of October, right around that Halloween time frame, it got hot. Like people were seeing deer, people were killing deer, and my vacation started the 1st, and I feel like I got a few days of pretty good weather, and then it turned hot, and that just kind of slowed everything down. And we were still seeing quite a bit of deer, especially in Kansas. We just weren't seeing the big ones. And then I don't know, this past week, honestly, it just seemed like, I don't know if it was lockdown mixed with temperature or what, but it just really slowed down. I am excited about this weather coming just because, honestly, from our experience, late November can be absolutely killer, especially for bigger, older bucks. I have not, I've been fortunate and tagged out early most of the time we've been to Kansas, but Connor has hunted later in November a couple of the years and seen several really good deer, a lot more than we see in early November. So I'm hoping that the weather, kind of kicks that off this next week. I mean, my 2 biggest bucks that I killed in Oklahoma, I think one was on the 22nd, one was on the 29th. So in a way, it does feel like, man, the initial rut's over, stuff's winding down, but all at the same time, I mean, we see a lot of big deer at the end of November.
So you're saying there's still hope for us?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
So Connor, would you say that's like I guess it's to both of you guys. It's like when the rut's kicking off, right? I guess there's a sense of urgency because it's like if I got to, do Quatus one time a year, I'd probably be pretty eager to as well. But do you think it's like from the sense it's fair. Do you think it's from the sense of like they know that it's winding down and there's like scarcity, and so they get like kind of a sense of urgency in the second half of November, or what do you kind of like chalk that up to?
I think there's several different things. So like when it comes into, and I think I'm going to speak mainly on Kansas in that sense, because in my opinion, from the past few years in Oklahoma, um, like I've told Trey, if I worked a job that I got to just have tons of vacation or even just 2 weeks, because I mean, I get fall break, I get Thanksgiving break, but if I had 2 weeks to pick, Oklahoma to me, I think the last week of October going into the first week November is the best time of the year. That's just my opinion. I think because once bucks start hitting scrapes and they start thinking about it and looking, to me, that's the best point. And then once the rut happens, where the places I hunt in Oklahoma, I don't feel very confident in the rut. I think you can go sit in a funnel and anything can happen. In Kansas, I think just the way it sets up, we're able to narrow deer down a little more, and that partially helps with some of the sightings we get. But with that late November, I mean, even into December, I mean, in Kansas, some of my favorite times, like time to be out there, is mid-December. And some of the biggest deer I've seen has been in mid-December. So I would say early November is hit and miss, and it all depends on that population when those does are coming in. And the hard thing is it's not insanely consistent, but like this year, I would have said last week when I missed that buck, I would have said that's the day, and that was unfortunately I get 3 days I get to take, and that was my last day, because the first 2 days I did the Friday before, Thursday and Friday, and Trey and I hunted and felt like we saw deer, but it was just little bucks cruising, doe, some does seeming like they're coming in, but it wasn't like it had kicked off. And then we had that cold front that came through and on that Monday. And dude, I mean, I saw 16 bucks and 14 does. I sat all day. I rattled in 4 different bucks at all times of the day. I rattled once every hour to hour and a half, rattled in 2 bucks at 1 o'clock. And it was just, I mean, they were out there on drugs, basically. Like, whether it was little bucks or like the good bucks I saw, like they were just going. And I was like, dang, I should have been like, if I could have redone my vacation, this would have been day 1. And then the rest of this week is when I would have done it. But I feel like they have that portion where they just go nuts. And then I think that it slows down always. Like the week before Thanksgiving, it seems to slow down a bit. And you'll see a lot of those younger, I don't even want to say smaller bucks, because a 3.5-year-old buck in Kansas could still be a hammer. But a lot of those younger bucks seem to start cruising a little bit, but you don't see a lot of those 4.5 plus. I mean, obviously some people do. There's always somebody seeing deer, always somebody on them, but I tend to not see them. And then that last week of November is when I feel like you start seeing those mature bucks moving again. And I think they lock down with some of those does, and then they start going to look for who's still in, who's coming in, where are the late does, and they have to start looking more. And I think that's why that ends up getting to be like it is, just from my experiences.
Do you think that has anything to do with the pressure up there? Because I would assume a lot of people are like, trying to pick and choose their time to take off. And I feel like a lot of people try to take off, either a little bit before, a little bit after Thanksgiving, just try to lengthen that vacation time a little bit. So do you think that's why the more mature bucks are kind of, hanging tight, or do you think it's just strictly due to the pattern?
I think it's a mix of both. We've been fortunate enough to, a couple of the places we've hunted haven't been pressured as much. And I think that because I don't get to hunt as much. I'm mainly a weekend guy, and I'm not seeing as much pressure. And if the years Trey tags early, I don't know if there's pressure or not, because he basically lives there. And when he tags early, he's not there to tell me if there's pressure. But like this year, we saw a little bit more in some areas, which the first few years up there, I would say pressure in early November was 100% there, and there were people everywhere. And then by that into that second week to beginning of that third week, it seemed to disappear. And so I definitely think that has a role, especially because the way Kansas sets up. I mean, they have wildlife areas, but a lot of those WEHA properties are pretty small, and it doesn't take much to push a buck off of it, or to realize like, hey, I can just be around the edges of it, and there's a lot of people over there, and I'm smelling a lot of things I don't like, but over here I'm not. So I definitely think that plays a role. But I will say I think people are starting to realize that second to third week is a little better and pushing it back, because we've seen a few people start pushing their vacation back a little more. But thankfully, around that Thanksgiving time, I mean, we're fortunate enough to live close that if we have Thanksgiving dinner on Wednesday, I can go hunt all day Tuesday and hunt Wednesday morning if I want and rush back. But a lot of guys from other states have to head home. And so I do think that plays a role as well. And that's right before their rifle kicks off in December. So you get a good week before people start banging and bringing out the Orange Army and anything's going down. You never know.
Plot twist. I just hunt Thanksgiving. Never let them know your next move.
Dude, Thanksgiving looks good this year, dude. The weather.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude, the Oklahoma, they're going to slaughter them this
Oh,
year.
they're
Like,
done for.
they are.
it's going to be bad. It's going to be
they're
bad.
done
I
for.
kind of hope I partake in that, so like I won't feel as bad. But yeah, it's gonna be a massacre. I feel like.
Not by me. I had one really good one, and I'm pretty sure he got shot in black powder. So I don't really have a whole lot in Oklahoma right now. So if I tag in Kansas, I'm gonna be winging it. But you never know. All it takes is one hot doe.
Are either of you guys going to partake in the Orange Army, or are you just bow hunting?
It'll depend on how much my wife and my daughter want to hunt. My daughter has taken a liking to it this year. She killed her first one during youth, and she has asked about every day if it's that other gun season yet. So I'll probably hunt with her a little bit, probably take my wife a little bit. Now I won't get to opening day because my wife's cousin decided to have a wedding on this Saturday. So
your wife's ex-cousin having a wedding.
Which is, all good, no big deal. But yeah, so not opening weekend, but I'll probably be bow hunting just because I feel like a lot of the bigger deer that we have to chase are on public, which is bow. So a lot of the places that we hunt are bow only. So that's all you can do. I have a couple pieces of private, but there is quite a bit of pressure around it. And I told Connor, I'm going to have to start getting more aggressive early season because I've just had these properties for a couple of years. And I have learned that I have several nice bucks show up every year. And then literally opening day of black powder, poof, they are gone. And I'll get one or two of them show back up here and there in the dark and whatnot. Maybe one will come back between muzzleloader and rifle, and then poof, gone again. Especially on the better property that I have, because there's a bigger piece connected to it. And there's a whole plethora of guys that pull in with campers and ATVs and they literally stay for, and I don't honestly think they kill much, because all of my deer end up showing back up every year. I think they're just out there to have a good time, which is cool. But it definitely does hinder the daylight movement. So I think next year I will probably be more aggressive on some of those deer earlier, because I try to play it like waiting on them to show up a little better in the daylight and whatnot. And the last 2 years, they've just vanished come when the boomsticks get out. So, I'll probably be on public.
They've got a nice beer camp over there.
Yeah.
Come out hunt evenings.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've really enjoyed, I'd say that the videos I've enjoyed the most on y'all's channel is y'all's Kansas hunts. I feel like you've done a really, really good job filming those, producing them. And it seems like both of you usually lay down a pretty good buck in Kansas, but I'm curious, obviously you've been putting in for several years and you guys have killed several bucks. There was one year you both didn't draw out, but was there anything different on y'all's approach this year, heading into Kansas, anything you've learned through the iterations, or is it pretty similar year to year on what you guys are doing?
I would say every year I approach it with an idea that I would like to try something new, and then I go back to what's been working. But I mean, I will say this is one of the first years we have done absolutely nothing for Kansas in terms of summer scouting or driving, glassing, anything like that. We just decided to go. Beforehand, I mean, back when they had trail cameras, we ran some. First year we did nothing. We just showed up and said, let's see what happens. Thankfully, some of the pins that I dropped first ended up being some really good spots. And we found a few spots that I'd say have been fairly consistent for us. And the good news is that we've been able to bounce around and go from each one of those spots and just kind of dodge pressure, because we've accepted that there's no way to just get away from pressure, but you can 100% adapt to it. So if one of the spots we're wanting to hunt has a bunch, we'll go to another one. It has a bunch. We'll go to the next one. Cool. Let's hunt in here for a bit. So we just kind of try to adapt to it. We have several. I mean, dude, if I pulled up Onyx, looks like a freaking Christmas tree of just different colored waypoints of places we're like, hey, for sure hunting here. We really want to look here. We looked here. It looks okay. And there's a few that we've been wanting to try. He looked at a couple of them this year. I might look at it at a couple Saturday just because I'm seeing a lot of decent deer, but I'm not seeing any of those deer that just make me go like, that's what I come to Kansas for. So I think I might bounce around a little bit. We have tried a couple different places this year that we talked about for years but never went into. And we actually went into one spot and I passed a 120-inch 8-point probably, give or take. And then we saw a good buck as well in that first sit, and he's seen some good deer there as well. And that's just kind of shows like honestly, I think any piece of public you go into in Kansas, even if it has 2 trees on it, it's gonna have good deer at some point. That whether they're crossing through there, moving through. I mean, I know a guy this year that tiniest piece of timber, and all those deer just pile into it and they move through it. And he unfortunately couldn't find a stud 9-point he shot. And so I think just we've been more willing to adapt and just say, hey, why not? Like, I'm sure there's something there. We just got to be there on the right day. So I'd say we did a mix of what we've normally been doing and the same strategy, just replicating it at other places.
Easy on those 120-inch 8-points, okay? Like, no,
they can be in trouble sometimes.
Yeah, I would say, kind of like he said, adapting to the pressure. One thing that we have noticed too is I'm fortunate enough to get quite a bit of vacation. And I know a lot of guys don't, some do. But one thing we've noticed is a lot of guys come into Kansas around the places that we hunt, and a lot of them do the same things. It's like you open Onyx and look at it, and the most obvious funnels and different things that anybody would pick is what these guys are picking, and that's where we see them hunt. And they might do that for 2 or 3 days and bounce on, or spend a week there and bounce on. And some of these bigger pieces that we hunt, like he said, you just kind of learn to adapt, and the deer do too. So when we start to see that pressure, over the course of a few years, we've kind of learned where these deer will go. And, we can push further into bedding or just different escape routes, if that makes sense, that these deer will kind of move to, which is kind of what I did this past week when I killed the one that I did. We were seeing a little more pressure where we normally hunt, and a place where a lot of these deer come from that we normally kind of stay out of, because that's where a lot of them come from. I called him and told him, I said, I think I'm going to go up in there. Like, it's the weather sucks, but why not? We're not seeing a lot out where we, normally hunt. And I popped up in there the next morning and had a great hunt. So that's one thing you can do. Again, I know not all guys have the time to kind of figure those things out, but the deer learn to adapt to it. So you need to learn to adapt to it sometimes.
So that's kind of pushing back harder in the bedding, you said, when the weather wasn't good. That's what ultimately led you to shooting a buck, you said?
Yeah. I mean, to be totally honest, the buck that I shot was not a giant buck. Now that specific deer, I think Connor passed the weekend before, and I think seen him a few days before I killed him. I don't necessarily think I needed to go back in there because he was moving around quite a bit. But the day before I shot that deer, I went up there and picked a tree out. And while I was back in there, I was actually, I was on the phone with you, wasn't I? When I had the deer come in, I was calling him, telling him about it, what it looked like, the sign that was in there. And I heard some running and crashing and told him, got to go. And looked over, and a doe come piling out of this like CRP type field with her mouth hanging open. And I was like, buddy, here we go. So I popped the arrow out, got the release out, squatted down, and a big half rack buck come down in there with her. I say big, just an 8-point side. And they come down in there and work through, crossed the creek, went up on this little flat. And I was trying to let them work away so I could get out of there. Well, about the time they were just starting to get far enough away that I felt like I could move, I heard a snort wheeze and a bunch of crashing around, and I looked up, and there was a much bigger buck in there running him off, bigger than the deer that I actually ended up shooting. And so I very quickly squeaked over there and sat down thinking they might come back. They didn't. So I told him, I said, I'm going to get out and get back in here the next morning. And that's what I did. And, ended up killing a different deer, which I'm not disappointed in the deer I killed by any means. I think had I had a split second longer to look at him, I might have let him walk. But it happened really fast and really early. I was actually texting my uncle to make sure that he was good and set and whatnot. And I was literally holding my phone and I heard "Bleh," and looked up, and this deer's at 15 yards walking right at me. And I literally I didn't even look at him after that. I turned the camera on, I grabbed my bow, and I look back at him, and he's turning towards these does that are about 80 yards away. And he's got one gap to walk through. And it's like, I never even really looked at him much after that. The initial, oh, this is a nice buck. Like, just, I went into kill mode and he went in that gap. The rest is history. But again, I'm not making excuses whatsoever, but I did call Connor and I was like, dude, steer isn't quite as big as I thought he was when I got all excited after that grunt. I said, but it is what it is. He's a great deer. And, like I said, I'm not disappointed at all, but, like I said, it happened real fast, but it is funny that literally the weekend before he come out and he's just big enough that he makes you grab your bow. You know what I mean? And Connor grabbed his bow and he come out in the opening and we were both looking like, maybe not this early, And, so yeah. And I was like, Ted Guts, same dang deer, but oh well, he's going to feed my family now. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Does that sound familiar, Jake?
Oh, very familiar. But me and Christian talk about this quite a bit. And like, I don't blame you one bit because it can be, whatever caliber of deer. But if he comes in like he has 3 legs, then it's like that immediately adds 10 inches to it where you're just like, okay, like the excitement factor's there. So it builds. And then all of a sudden, it's just a boiling point. You got to shoot.
Yeah. And those Kansas deer are so dang big. Like when he come in, like I said, when I looked up, I just saw this huge body and tall white rack. And again, it's not like he was at 15 yards. I wasn't going to sit there and count inches. I just knew he was a nice deer. And I'd been up there for pushing 2 weeks, and you can only hear Daddy, when are you coming home so many times, and so
from your wife or your kid?
Kids. And two, I got 2 buck tags here in Oklahoma, and I have not got to hunt Oklahoma in November at all. So I'm really looking forward to the end part of November. But yeah, like again, not making any excuses at all. I'm very, very thankful for the deer, and I am a little sad I don't get to stick around and hunt with Connor much more. I'll go up and film him a time or two, but yeah, I'll probably spend a little time here now.
Connor, what was your? I think you alluded to it a little bit, but has your Kansas season went similar on like buck sightings and stuff? You talked about seeing a bunch of bucks in early November.
Yeah, I'd say I've been seeing a lot of. I don't want to use the term little bucks. Let's just say younger bucks. I haven't seen anything that's just been like, oh, sure enough. And then so because of that, I was gonna go try an area that we haven't hunted in. We didn't draw last year. We didn't hunt it at all. I think the year before that. We hunted it this year in September just to see, what was going on, but it wasn't like we did a whole lot of walking around or looking. We kind of went in where we kind of wanted to be and just hunted at one evening and got out, and we haven't been back. So I had planned to go in there, and then I got in there. I'm trying to think what day this would be, like the 10th, maybe November 10th. Got in there, and there was a guy parked to head into that spot. And so I talked with him for a little bit, and another guy from Arkansas pulled up, talked with him a little bit. And I was like, well, boys, I'm going to go find somewhere else then, good luck. The guy had already been hunting in there and told me he'd seen a couple little deer. And I was like, all right, that's fine. Good luck. Whether he's telling the truth or not, I have no idea. But so I decided I was going to either hunt a spot that it's probably the most overlooked spot that we've found in Kansas that you would never expect people to hunt or for it to even hold big deer. And I thought about sneaking into that spot, and I just decided, no, I'm going to go to probably my favorite spot that I've hunted in Kansas, period. So I got in there. I was running a little late because I was heading to the other spot, talked to that guy, just put me a little bit behind. And it's a spot, and being a little behind stressed me out because it's a spot that if it's shooting light, once shooting light hits, you better have your bow in your hand because I guarantee you there's does coming out of the bedding. I guarantee you that there's going to be some form of a buck with them. And it's just about every time that I've hunted it, that's what it's been. Well, I'm getting into this tree and I am pretty much everything's set, but I'm going to put the camera up, and I bend over my backpack, and I hear it crunch, and I'm like, dang it. So I just say, screw it. I just slowly lean up and look over. There's probably pushing 125 inch 8-point coming, and I literally have my bow on the bow hanger, and I put a sight cover on because my dad broke a pin one time pulling it up, and it was the pin he needed to shoot a deer. And he was just like, dude, if I had my pin that day, that's a dead deer. So I use a sight cover, right? And I'm old school, so I don't do a thumb release. I still use the wrist release. I don't like being fancy, I guess. So I see this deer, and I'm like, I did this in 22 when I got set. I killed a deer in less than a minute in an evening hunt. And I just said, screw it. If they see me, they see me. And when I saw him, I said, same thing. Screw it. If he sees me, he sees me. Rip that sight cover off, lean down in my backpack, put on my release, put an arrow on. I'm moving as much as you possibly can with him at 15 yards, turn around, drew back. And he had got quartered away from me behind me, hadn't seen me yet or nothing, but he was behind limbs. I just could not get a shot. And then I hear another crunch, look over my shoulder, and I've got 5 does coming out of the bedding. So he chased another little 8-point runs in. They all chase those does off into the field. And I'm sitting there going, dude, what the heck? That's a dead deer if I'm 5 minutes sooner. So I'm kind of in my feels, I guess. Get all set up finally. Haven't seen anything for 20 minutes. And then it's just rest of the day. I saw deer the whole day until 10 o'clock. I'm sitting and I've got a cedar thicket behind me. And it's not like you just can't see through it if you're on the ground, but it's one of those cedar thickets that if you're in the tree, you can't really see into it much until they pop out of it. And I just hear running. And so I stand up, and by the time I stood up, I had a tank run by me at 10 yards. And not like cruising, not like I'm kind of trotting. I mean, I'm running like Mach 9, like he's chasing a doe, but he's chasing nothing. And he looks like he's on drugs, like his mouth's open, like drooling, and just I could hear him breathing, like doing that, like breathe grunting at the same time, just going. And I don't even have time to stop him. I didn't even have time to grab my bow. Like he got past me and just kept going. So I hear more running, and I was like, please, Lord, be a bigger buck. And then it ends up being that half rack buck that Trey's talking about. Got a good 8-point side, and then nothing. And so he comes running by me, and they run back into the bedding. Well, a few minutes goes by, and I have a doe come flying out of there. I can hear them chasing some doe. I guess there's a doe back there. They're chasing some doe through a creek. They're going in the water, sloshing it everywhere. I can hear snort, wheeze, and grunt, and it's just all going down. And I'm just sitting there with my bow like, come on, sweetheart, run them out here. 20 minutes goes by, nothing. I sit down, I chill. 45 minutes goes by, and I hear running, and I just know it's him. And he comes dead sprint on my left side. And I went in blind to a new tree, and there's no shots that way. Dead sprint, and he's about 40 yards too far. Gets downwind at me, and this blew my mind. I'm talking same Mach 9 speed, dead sprint. The minute he got downwind of me, I mean from the dead sprint to like when you see a horse in a movie hit the brakes and slide. Dude, I'm talking brakes. And he just stopped and looked around, and I was like, oh, crap. Just sneak off behind me at 40 yards, and you're done for. Well, he turns around and heads the way he came, and I had one gap, and I stopped him, and he went a few yards past that gap. And I'm hybrid hunting. I've been hunting out of an Elevate Ultra X, which if you've seen those, they are tiny. So it's basically a saddle platform, but it's a tree stand. So I've been hunting out of that with my saddle, so that way I can do a little bit of everything. And I just squat down, and I'm like, okay, there's a gap, smaller than a basketball, but I'm like, I'm shooting fixed. I'm not going to hit anything and mess up my broadhead. I was like, I can get that thing in there. And I debated, and he was stuck, just sitting there looking, and he's still breathing heavy. He's still on crack cocaine mode. And finally I was like, you got it, send it. And I sent it, and I saw that limb go whoop, and I saw my arrow go right underneath him, threw my bow out of the stand, quit hunting, and now I'm just going back to bass fishing. So that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I was 100% convinced he killed him because he called me the first time he went by. I was at a totally different, like hour away spot. He calls me and he's like, dude, I assumed he killed one anyway, because we don't call each other in the stand unless we kill one. And he was like, dude, I just had a tank come by me, like mock Jesus, just run by. He's like, there was no doe. And I was like, oh, what? Yeah, I mean, okay. He's like, he just run off, to the east. And I was like, okay, well, shut up. Put your phone down. Like, he might come back, not really, but that's in my head what I'm thinking. And, well, what? Again, 45 minutes later, phone rings. And it's still relatively early. So I'm like, oh, he got that sucker. Or another one, and I pick up the phone. He's like, dude, I missed him. And I was like, oh, no. I got my hopes up twice, and I did feel real terrible because he doesn't get as much time as, some guys, and so I'm usually praying pretty hard that it happens for him, and he just had a tough string of luck this year.
I'm just glad I
Did you
didn't
really
wound him.
throw your
That
bow?
was my big day. No,
Okay.
no. But I will say,
I wouldn't blame you.
and this isn't like a brag or anything, because I have wounded some deer, unfortunately. So I was glad I missed him instead of wounded him. But that is the first time I've ever missed a deer. And of course, he wasn't like a, change your life type buck, but I would say if you told, he was running so fast, dude. All I knew is shooter, tall, like got good tines, heavy, got pretty good width. But if I'd shot him and walked up and he scored 140, I would say that's probably about right. If he had 10 more inches on him, I wouldn't be shocked either. But I told him, I was like, easily, it would be probably the second biggest buck we've killed in Kansas. I've killed a 154, and that one was a narrow buck with not a lot of mass, and it was just tines, and that's it. I mean, he just had tines, height, and that was what got him up there. This buck was a heavier buck, good beams that curled inside. I mean, honestly, I liked this buck more than my bigger buck, and I think that buck would have scored. The buck I've got scores more than he does. But I like those heavy bucks that just got like that kind of swamp buck look to him. For some reason, I think every swamp buck looks like he could, kick any other buck's buck. But just had that look to him, and I was like, golly. But dude, the rut is wild. That's why I like October. I want him cruising, coming in, working a scrape. And I mean, he wasn't even chasing a doe, but dude, this guy was running like if there was a doe anywhere, he was gonna go find her. I mean, it was not stopping, nothing. The only reason he stopped is because he smelled me, and then he went back, and he went back at the same speed. But yeah, I haven't missed a deer before, so that one I kind of sat there for a second. I was like, it's a weird feeling. Like normally I'm sitting there going, oh, I hope that was a good hit. And I was just sitting there going, I know I missed him. I didn't hear anything. And I went down there, and I mean, my left and right was perfect. Went right under him, buried in the mud. And I sat there the rest of the day because I told myself, he just got shot at. He may not really know what's going on. I mean, maybe I'm as lucky as Trey. Trey shot at a deer, and it walked 10 feet away and came right back and got shot. So you never know. Maybe I'm that lucky. But all it takes is a hot doe to come through there, and he won't remember anything that happened because he is outside his mind right now. So I sat the whole day, and I did something new this year. So I guess this would be a strategy if you're going into somewhere like Kansas or somewhere that has more aggressive deer. Usually I try to take some real horns with me, but I was using the black rack, and I rattled every hour to hour and a half. I would just on the dot, just would go for it. Unless I had deer around me, I'd wait. But if I didn't, I would rattle every hour to hour and a half. And I rattled in just that day 4 different bucks. 2 of them I rattled in with, and I know I did because they came in looking. 2 of them I rattled at 1 o'clock, and I only rattled for 30, 45 seconds at most. Usually it's about 30 seconds because fights aren't that long. It's not like deer in there for 2 minutes just absolutely going at it. Usually it's pretty quick, and then it's over. So I'm doing about 30 seconds, so just so if they're far enough, they can hopefully hear part of it. And at 1 o'clock, I mean, I had Trey's buck and another buck come in. I literally rattled, turned, hung them up on the hanger, turned back, and they both were coming in, posturing up. Within, I mean, it was 15 seconds of being done. And I had more deer come into that, and I stayed the whole day hoping he'd come back, and saw a lot. Like I said, 16 different bucks, and I saw most of them multiple times. Just he didn't come back, and no other shooters, just enough that I was praying that he would be there. But I mean, it's awesome when you're seeing a bunch of deer in Oklahoma. I'm like, I saw a forked horn and a spike. It was such a good day. I saw deer. So
$2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
I mean,
how it goes.
I was entertained the whole day. It did not feel like an all day sit. I had a little bit of food with me, but not like I was sitting there killing time doing that. But when you're seeing deer, it makes life easy. I mean, it's not hard to sit all day when there's deer constantly throughout the day coming by you. But yeah, since then I haven't been back. My wife and I are expecting, so we had maternity pictures this past weekend, but it was 80 degrees, so I didn't mind. But I'm planning to go back up this weekend and see what I can do. Throw a few sits at random places and see what happens. And if not, tag a couple does and lick my wounds and come back to Oklahoma and see what happens.
Well, I guarantee you, if that's your first miss, you're for sure a better man than Christian and
What's that supposed to mean?
and myself. But
I've only missed twice this season. That's not a lie either. That's not even a joke.
No, but just to kind of put it out there for the people listening, it's not like you're hunting like you have a corn feeder at 15 yards. You know where they're going to come out at. Like they're going to stop here unless something wild happens, the wind shifts or something like that. Like this is public land, and like you think you know where they're going to come out at. You think you know where they're going to walk, and especially during the rut, it's like when they come in, looking for a doe, just like your buck was. It's like you don't know where they're going to be. They could take a trail that doesn't even exist, and you're going to just try to like fling and make something happen. It's like it's going to happen. Like, I mean, I think you've gotten extremely. I mean, maybe you're just good. I mean, I don't know, but like for that to be your first miss, like that's saying something. So I wouldn't take too bad of a beating on that.
I mean, like I said, I was more thankful I didn't wound him. And it was just nice to see a good buck because I hadn't seen a good buck that season. I mean, that's the main one I've seen that I'd call 140 plus. Everything else has been in the mid 120s or lower. Now, not all that's been in shooting range. I'm not just sitting there passing Pope and Youngs. Trust me, I ain't got that in me. If it gets close enough, it's done for. But yeah, I was just glad I didn't wound him. And I mean, heck, you want the biggest tip for Kansas? If you're wanting to go to Kansas, climb in a stand, get down early, and get on the ground. And the minute you touch your feet to the ground, a big one's going to walk up. I can't tell you how many times that's happened that we've either got out of the stand, there's deer, or we decide, let's just go like still hunt a little bit and sit in places. I mean, that's where we literally have gotten some of the best action. And that day I probably could have done it just because they were running. They had no idea what was going on around them. And I would have had a great shooting lane because there'd been nothing in my way. But, so yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not down about it at all. I mean, it sucked in the moment, but I wasn't really even beat up. I was just kind of like, dang, that happened.
Yeah.
But
wasn't
hey,
ideal.
makes it
Speaking of tips though, whenever you're talking about your rattling, you said you only did in like 15, 30-second increments. Was it like super fierce or were you just kind of barely taking on them?
So honestly, what we've been doing when we hunt together, we like to, one of us get down and we'll rattle on the ground, kick leaves, kick sticks, hit trees. I mean, we just go crazy. Just because it makes it sound way more realistic. I did not have the guts to do that when I'm the only one there. Because if it's both of us and all of a sudden a buck shows up in 30 seconds like it did, I'll just sit there on the ground, not move, and tell him, grab your dang boat. And but by myself, I just decided to do it in the tree. And typically, I mean, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way, but we both kind of have pointed out a lot of guys when they rattle, they'll hit and then they'll just like deer are just sitting there going like that over and over again. Like it doesn't seem natural. So it's like you have a big bang of horns clashing and then you'll just be stuck. So click, 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 like where they're hitting and then they break apart and then they'll hit again and they'll do the same type of thing. And that's generally what I'll do. And I know Trey does the same thing as well. And that's really about it. Usually two or three really big hits with some movement in between. If I've got a tree up by me, I'll, move it around, just try to make some extra noise if something's close. But I can say I think the ground noise does help because, if you've seen deer fight, it's freaking a mess. Mm-hmm. But one buck, I couldn't tell exactly how good he was, but I just saw him out in the field. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for it. And if he comes in, if hopefully another buck comes in, and then I've got two of them, and that'll get them closer to me. And he was at 85 yards, and I did that, and immediately he perked up and came running in. So, I did it for 10 seconds on that one because I could just see him coming, and I knew I had his interest already. So, we have a buddy who was hunting Kansas. I don't know what year that was, but he saw a good buck that was chasing does. Is that right, Trey?
Yeah.
And he was going away from him, and he was like, what have I got to lose? And he started hitting horns together, and he said he came just dead sprint right at him and came straight to him. So, once you can feel like these bucks are feeling it, it doesn't take too much. I think you could do it completely where it doesn't even sound realistic, but as long as they get an idea, they're so dumb at this point, doesn't take much.
Yeah. I think it's all situational too. Like a buck that may be within relative, like good earshot of you, if there's lighter winds or whatever, I think a lot of that ground noise, breaking sticks, stuff like that can probably tip it over that point of like, it just sounds realistic to him, but especially on like windy days, a buck that's 150, 200 yards out there, he's not going to hear the leaves you're kicking. I don't think, you know what I mean? I think he hears those initial clicks, That's why I like to give 4 or 5 of those in a rattling sequence, like a good pop. And then, like I said, we'll grind them, and again, I don't think they're hearing that when they're at a super far distance, but a deer that's closer might. I mean, if one you can't see is 80 yards over there, but I do like to give those loud pops 4 or 5 times, just because I'm sure they know what that sounds like. And a deer that's a couple 100 yards over there moving across the field that you can't see, he hears a big old pop. He may stop and look like, is that what I thought I heard? You know what I mean? And then a few seconds later, here's another crack. He's like, oh yeah. And then, so yeah, it's all situational. I mean, but there's nothing wrong with doing all of those things each time, that you don't know where they are.
Now in Oklahoma, if we do that, and I mean, from my experience, and a deer hears that, he said, "See ya," and then he takes off because he ain't about that life. That's the deer I hunt. I hunt a bunch of deer that are scared of anything and everything.
Scared of their own shadows. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What about, like, do you guys mix any grunting in with that, or do you kind of just wait until you see the bucks?
I like to do like tending grunts. We were actually just talking about that the other day, because like I feel like everybody grows up, where I don't know whether you learned it off like a computer game or just watching TV or whatever, but you give like a couple of clicks and like a long, at least that's the way I grew up doing it. And you hear a lot of guys do that. I don't ever hear deer do that out in the timber. Like, it's mostly clicks, you know what I mean? Just tending grunts, or when they're moving, little clicks here and there. So that's what I like to do, is I'll kind of fan them. You know what I mean? Like every 30 minutes or something, I'll just kind of fan some like little rut clicks or tending clicks, whatever you want to call them. And I guess, yeah, I do it blindly. Now I will grunt at a buck, that we see, and I will start with clicks like that. Now obviously one's moving away, you're trying to Hail Mary, get his attention. Yeah, I'll grunt louder. But as far as just blind calling, we'll rattle, and then, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, whatever, we'll throw out a little fan of some clicks. I will say and probably just because the volume goes further, or the sound goes further, but we get way more reaction out of rattling. You know what I mean? We will, obviously you're not going to rattle at a buck that's 80 yards away. Like, I mean, you might, but let's say 50 yards away. If he's on a 50-yard trail and you're just trying to get his attention to come closer, we grunt at deer like that all the time. And most of the time, to be honest, they don't react. They might look, but rarely do we get one that just comes looking. You know what I mean? We get more of that off the rattling, a deer that we didn't know were there, and they just come flying in. But bucks are out there grunting all the time, so we're still going to grunt and, hope.
Based on conditions. If it's super windy, I mean, they're not going to hear that crap.
They're not going to hear it.
But I will say, from my experience, a grunt is like if I see the deer, when I grunt, it's a great way to get his attention, because I want him to stop. I don't want him to think. I want him to know, like, okay, something's over there. And he might start to kind of, like, you'll see him bristle up a little bit and go, okay, someone's trying to say something to me. But I will say, to bring a deer in, especially a mature deer, because obviously if we're talking trying to harvest a mature deer, the grunt will get his attention, but to me, the grunt doesn't usually pique enough interest. I do have a funny story about a grunt, though, I can tell you, in Kansas, that my brother had. It's pretty hilarious. But I will say snort wheezing. Like, we will grunt and get their attention, and then they'll sit there and we'll wait, see how they react. And most of the time, they'll look, and then they'll go to start walking again. And I will hit them with another grunt, get their attention. And usually after that, once you throw a snort wheeze, we've had a lot of success with mature bucks. I mean, they may not come into shooting range, but they actually come in and look. They're going, okay, now you've made me wonder. Now you've got my attention. You want to talk some crap. Let's see if you're about it. And they'll come in and look. Now, again, they may not get in shooting range, but it at least interests them to give you more of a chance. So I think that's a major one. If I'm trying to like grunt at a deer that I see, snort wheezing is a big piece.
Okay, but you usually follow that like after the grunt. So it's like you're trying to catch their attention. So it's like, hey, and then all of a sudden it's like,
yeah,
have you?
Yeah.
Well, and snort wheezes too. Like, there's been a couple of times we've seen like a buck moving through real quick or something, and we'll just throw a snort wheeze out to like really get his attention. Sometimes they don't like that, it kind of tweaks them out. So that's why I think we try to start with grunts first. And then, if they kind of seem interested or whatever, but not really, like I said, we'll try the snort wheeze. sometimes that really gets their attention. We've had multiple that you throw that out and all of a sudden they're like, all right, that hair will stand up and they'll start coming in looking. I couldn't tell you how many times we've been like, dude, we need a decoy so bad. And he has one, and we debate taking it all the time because we need to just learn to take it in some of these open areas. Cause I'm like, sure, we're going to scare some. It's going to scare some. But the one time it works, we'll be so thankful, because I couldn't tell you how many times we've gotten so close to mature deer. They'll come into 50, 60, 70 yards looking, and they just don't see nothing. There's nothing there for them to come. I mean, it makes sense. Why would they come over there? There's nothing there, but yeah, I think the snortwees can be the little bit of extra that you need sometimes.
No, I think pairing with a decoy would be the ticket. I mean, kind of like you said, I know it's all situational, but there was a time, it was a few years back, me and my wife went and set out on a blind, and we were about to leave for the evening, but before I started packing up all the camera gear and stuff, I just decided to smash the horns together. Well, the one buck that we were thereafter just immediately stepped out, and then he was an older buck, so he didn't like step out in the field. He just kind of hugged the timber line and just to kind of check it out. And as soon as he didn't see anything out there, he just tucked right back in. Last time we've ever seen him. And so it did get me thinking. I'd probably called Christian immediately after that hunt, and I was like, dude, if I had a decoy, I think that deer would have been dead, just because like he was interested, but there just wasn't enough of that picture there for him to be like, okay, right there.
Right. I think if you can fool more than one sense, that helps, if that makes sense. Because you've already got his attention with the grunt or the snortwees or rattling or whatever it may be. You've already fooled that sense. You've already fooled his ears. But if you could fool his eyes when he got in there, game over. You know what I mean? But
because if you can't, I think, and they still might do this even if you fool their eyes, but without the decoy at times, what we've noticed a lot of deer will try to do is so sometimes they come up and they don't see anything, so they leave. But if they don't see anything and they still think, hey, there might still be something there, that's when they try to get that second sense, and they get downwind of you to try to say, do I smell anything? Because we've had deer that we have grunted and snortwees to. They've come in and checked. They're not in shooting range yet. And we're like, if we had a decoy, we would, we probably could have this deer come in, because they'll make that run, that curled run around us, get downwind, and then they're out because they smell us. And so I think that's where you can prevent that by, if you can get their eyes fooled, then who cares? I don't need to smell that thing. I can see it, and you have a better chance of killing them. But the big thing for anyone that's listening to this, we're not saying, get up in a tree, grunt, snortwees, rattle 24/7. You have to know the deer you're hunting. And what we've come to learn for the most part on the deer that we've been hunting in Kansas, and again, it's not everywhere in Kansas. Sometimes we go to a certain property and you're like, dude, ain't nothing here. Respond to it or even care about it. But once you get an idea about the deer you're hunting and you can gauge how vocal they are, I mean, this spot, one of the main spots we go to, we had 3 little bucks and a pretty good 8-point, maybe the buck he shot, that were all chasing one doe. And the 8-point was leading it and all the little ones were behind. And they were running, and he turned and both freaking hooves hit the ground, and he snortweezed at them, and they all scattered and kind of took off. And it was kind of like, hey, stay away. Like, these deer we've been seeing, they're vocal. We hear them grunt a bunch. We hear snortweezes. So we know if they're vocal, us being vocal will be normal, and it will tell them like, hey, other deer talking here. We need to go check stuff out. So since we've kind of gotten familiar with that, and we've called on our own and tested it and seen them come in and respond to it, we know we can be a little more aggressive. Because if you go in and be aggressive in some areas where deer aren't very aggressive based on just that population, then, I mean, you could probably mess up more than you will actually help yourself. So I think that's kind of also the other thing, is trying it, learning the deer you're kind of hunting and getting an idea, and then going from there.
I've been running my cell cams, some down here in Texas, on a video mode, especially during the rut and some of these creek crossings and stuff. And I have requested videos, and so many times, and a lot of these are not mature bucks, but I see bucks walking, and I'll see a mouth open. I'm like, I wonder what he's doing. And I'll get that video back, and he's
Yeah.
And it's like sequenced with the steps, like now,
Constantly.
If you were 80 yards away, you probably wouldn't even hear that. But if you're especially if you're in places where like there's timber, or there's like, hey, there could be a deer 40 yards that way, and I don't hear him, I think that's a much more natural sound than we think it is, because you'd have to be in there to ever experience it. But I hear it on cameras all the time, and I hear does do it. I've seen mature does ugh. And I'm like, I've had to pull my binders up before and look at their face. I'm like, is that coming from her face? And they do it too. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's why I say we do like the clicks a lot. That's what I call a click or whatever, tending grunt. Because you don't really ever hear them doing any kind of roaring or, big grunting. We've heard it for sure, but it's like usually when they're with a doe and they've got another buck pestering them or something else, because the few times we have heard it, we're like, what the frick did we just hear? You know what I mean? It's just rare.
And if you hear it, it's like once a season.
Yeah.
You hear it maybe once or twice a season, and that's about it. But while we're on being vocal, I do have a funny story. So my brother was hunting with me in Kansas 2 years ago, and this is probably, I'd say, top 3 to 5 bucks we've seen in Kansas. Big 10 point, and he comes in chasing a doe with a little buck, and the little buck stops right by my brother's tree, and the big buck, flying back with that doe at 40 yards. He couldn't get him to stop. And finally, the doe and the big buck stopped way past him, and he goes, screw it. I don't care. Like, I have nothing to lose. He said, I should have had my grunt call out, but I didn't. So he's digging in his backpack, and the whole time this little buck's looking up at him. Said he gets his grunt call and starts throwing a few grunts out, and that big buck looks back. And he said the whole time the little buck is looking up at him, looking over at the big buck, looking up at him, looking over at the big buck. And that big buck is looking at the little buck at this point, and he's like, no, it ain't me. It's this guy up here in the tree. And the big buck runs at the little buck, chases him out in the field, and he texts me and says, big buck coming your way, because I'm hunting a few hundred yards away. And I look out in this field, and I see this little buck coming across the field. I'm like, dude, that's not a big buck. And then all of a sudden pops out, and I was like, that's a big buck. And dude, he chased him. I think because I heard him go into a cedar thicket probably 80 yards away from me, and I heard him run down into the end of a creek. And if I guessed, he chased him roughly 600 yards and absolutely plowed him over. I could hear it like boom. And this thing, you could hear it roll. You could hear blah, blah, like the little buck's just like, please, like saying stop. Runs him all over, and there's like crap breaking. And I was like, holy crap. What? Like, that's insane. He left his doe for this. And then it hit me. Oh, he left his doe. He's going to walk right by me to go get back to her. And I was sitting there like, let's go. I waited. Nothing happened. He never went back to her. Nothing. And I called him. He's like, dude, did he come by you? And I was like, yeah, but at like 80 something yards and plowed that buck over. And he's like, oh, well, that's my fault. And I was like, what do you mean? He told me the story, and I was dying. And he's obviously not laughing because he's like, dude, that was a giant. It was so close. And looking back now, he'll bring that story up and he'll just die. He's like, that little buck was like, shut up, dude. I hadn't said anything. That's not me. But that just shows how aggressive and vocal. I've never seen a deer chase another buck, leave a doe and chase him 600 yards across the field at a dead sprint, and then absolutely ruin his day. It's crazy how different they can be.
Plot twist, the little buck actually won, but
yeah, he turned and knocked him over. That's why he didn't come back, because he was like, dude, I just tucked my tail and left. I lost to that little dude.
Yeah, you can't go back to the doe after that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, you can't go back to her. You're like, well, that's it.
Yeah, their temperament, man. It is so interesting, because I've really, apart from some like big private pieces, have not seen many deer in Oklahoma like throw down like that. And when I'm rattling on public land in Oklahoma, I'm like, why am I wasting my time? Like, why am I doing this? Like, I've rattled in a few, but just nothing. But I don't know if it has to do with like their body mass or just their temperament, but they're just more aggressive.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if that's to do with like deer density.
I'm sure some of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm not trying to beat a dead horse when it comes to like rattling and grunting and stuff, but like, I guess to kind of stay topical for someone who might be listening to this like a week or two from now, where it's like still okay to maybe be doing this. Like, when do you guys usually see that shut off where you're like, I'm not taking the antlers, I'm not probably picking up my grunt tube, anything like that?
I don't think I've rattled anything in December. Now, I like December because I think, at least the few pieces we've hunted, I have success because I feel like a lot of late does come in. And what's crazy is when a late doe comes in and it's in December, it's usually not, oh, dude, she had a buck on her. It's usually every buck in the county found the few does left and they're all there. But I never really get response on them being like super aggressive or them coming in. But I haven't tried it as much. I think part of that is I just assume. I assume they're not going to come into rattling, so I don't rattle as much. Whereas November, I'm thinking, what have I got to lose? Every hour and a half, I'm going to hit these things together. So I haven't tried it as much then. I think grunting, I think you can grunt all season. It just depends on like how aggressive, or if I'm doing some natural grunts and things like that. But, or if I see a deer, I'll grunt, and sometimes they're not interested. Other times they might be, but I wouldn't say I would just put them up and throw them in a box at the house and not take them. But I do think by the time December rolls around, I don't use them as much. But the whole month of November, I do. I wish I need to start using them more late October, because I think that can still be good. But I don't use them as much in December. But hey, this year, if I'm out there, if I'm not at home getting ready to welcome a baby, then maybe I'll throw it together. What have I got to lose?
Yeah. I think I would base it off of what I'm seeing. I have tagged out every year before late, I would say late November and like into December. I don't mean that bragging in any way. I've just been fortunate enough to do so. But I think if I was still going up there, and still seeing deer cruising, you know what I mean? Like, I would probably still be trying to call until I saw that slow down. Because you can tell a difference between a deer cruising and a deer just walking through, and you know what I mean, being a deer. But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't do any of it here. I don't hardly ever call here. I'll always keep a grunt call on me, you know what I mean, to call at a deer that I can see. But I mean, I honestly don't do a lot of like just random blind calling in late season. Maybe I should. Maybe it works. I don't know. I'm sure it does for somebody. But I would say the majority of our calling is done when we see rut action.
I feel like I don't know what it is, but in Oklahoma on the public that I've heard people calling, I see how like unrealistic it sounds when you're like 200 yards away, and I'm like, is that what I sound like when I'm in the tree? Like, but
Yeah.
like playing it like a flute, like whoa, whoa, and then it's whoa, like that sort of thing. And I don't know if they just hear that so much that they're like, I know that's not what that is. And then they never respond to that again, or what it is. But or temperamental. It's probably all of the things. But dude, I've never really had a whole lot of luck on public doing that.
I do think it's a mix for sure. I think, but one thing to say about when you're wondering if you sound like that. So I've done that with a grunt call. We've tested like 10-mile-an-hour wind. My dad's getting down or something. Hey, he's gonna work his way to me. I'm gonna say, text me when you're at 200 yards. I'm gonna grunt. I want to see if you can hear me, or I'm gonna rattle. Tell me if it sounds any good. Like it's noon, we're getting down or something. And I mean, I've had him critique me, or say like, hey, I couldn't really hear your grunt till I got to about 100. Then I could hear it. Or at 200 yards, your rattle sound pretty good. When I got closer, though, I could kind of tell like that doesn't sound that good. So we've tested it that way, and it does kind of help you adjust your, what you're doing, because based on what they hear, they can say, hey, you need to hit them a little harder. It ain't that loud, or you need to tickle those horns a little bit more, and that way I can hear it more often. So that's something you can always do and test with a buddy for sure.
Yeah, and I think like you were talking about public. Public versus private to me, and I'm sure this like is the same in every state, not just Oklahoma to an extent, but it's hard to see like legitimate full on rut behavior on some of the public that we hunt. I mean, you see it, but it's rare. Now I've got a couple of private pieces that I've been on over the years that are like very unpressured. You see a lot more natural rut movement, if that makes sense. You see a lot of bucks cruising, a lot of bucks being vocal. You'll see some fights. It's like my uncle's place, for instance. You see that stuff all through the rut, but you bounce on the public a quarter mile away, and it's like you don't see any of that stuff while all of that stuff's going on over there. You know what I mean? I do think pressure has something to do with that. I'm not saying that they're smart enough to know, like, I'm not calling because, you know what I mean, or being vocal, but maybe there is some of that. I don't know. But you just see, we've just had so much less success trying to call on public. And we've talked to guys that I just talked to a guy the other day that's like, I've rattled up $4, on some public around here recently. And I'm like, how often do you? And he's like, oh, I rattle every 30 minutes. And I'm like, there's no telling how many you know what I mean, running off. But I mean, of course you're going to get one here and there, but yeah, I think pressure makes a huge difference on how responsive they are and just the natural rut movement or action that you see.
I think if you're hunting eastern Oklahoma too, and you're hunting places that are more mountainous and have lower deer densities, you're like, you don't have as many at bats. It's like if I scare off this good buck, there's not another good one. The next good one might be 1,000 yards away, mile and a half away. You're like, I really kind of just want to be like a reaper and just not exist in that setting. Whereas in Kansas, you're like, hey, I'm in the mix, dude. They've seen 5 other bucks today. Like this is real. And I don't think there's as many deer to do as much of that stuff.
Right.
I think you hit it perfect. I was gonna say the same thing of I think central from my experience of what I've done in central to western Oklahoma, and I don't have a ton of experience, but I've definitely hunted in central and western Oklahoma, and I see more Kansas-like habits there than I do in eastern Oklahoma hunting something in the mountainous timber. I think those deer act a little different. But central to western Oklahoma, I think you can replicate some of that stuff based on where you're at. And I think you can have a little more success hunting at like some of those Kansas places, especially if you get up by the Oklahoma border. It's not like those deer know like, well, if I moved over a half mile into Oklahoma, I'm not going to say nothing. But if I stay over here, I'll be vocal. Like those deer tend to be a little bit more like that. Whereas like if you're hunting the eastern side and you're in the mountains and the big timber, I think those deer act different. And I think part of it could be just the deer like herd itself, the density, the habitat. And I think a lot of that change. I mean, there's a lot of factors I think that go into it.
You know, it's funny you say that a while ago, but it does feel like that over in the eastern part sometimes in these more mountain terrains. Cause it's like, if you screw up a chance at a deer or whatever, or you just see him move 80 yards out there out of range, you're like, well, that was my one deer sighting for the day. Like, it's obviously not true, but that's how it feels. Like, because a lot of times that's how it is. It's like, you know, you'll sit all morning and you see a group of does at 9:30. That's all you see. You might be lucky to see one buck. You know what I mean? Where total opposite in Kansas. Like, you know, literally my eyes are peeled the whole time because there's just no telling what's going to come around the corner in the next 30 seconds.
The Midwest is just different. We were talking to our buddy the other day, and he's like, he was talking about an October cold front. He saw like 18 bucks in one sit. And I was like, dude, I haven't seen 10 bucks all year.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the reality of it. Yeah. Like I can go hunt a week in the mountains and not see a buck. That's a reality. Sometimes not a deer. And so it's just, you know, that they're so different. You can't apply it.
To put it into perspective, it was me, you, Justin, Mason, and Jordan, and Anthony. Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I blanked on his name. So what is that, like 5-6 people? And in a matter of 4 days, I think we seen 4 bucks between us all, and it's like
that was a great week.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to like remind ourselves where we are. And we talk about Kansas a lot, and people kind of, when they talk to us or want to talk to us, it's usually about Kansas because we've had so much Kansas stuff, but we've been lucky to draw, and, you know, we're not guys with tons of time. So that's where our time has been spent. And believe me, we would love to kill some deer here, but we've spent the majority of our time in Kansas. Gosh, I forgot where I was going with that. What were we talking about? Oh, yes. Sorry. We have to remind ourselves where we are sometimes,
dude,
because
I do it too.
We go from Kansas to seeing all of these deer, and then I'll come back to Oklahoma and I'll sit and I'm like, it's 11:30. I haven't seen a flipping deer. And I'm like, I have to remind myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm back in the mountains. Like, I may not see a deer till next Thursday. It's all right. Like, you know what I mean?
But if I'm in Kansas and I haven't seen a deer by 11:30, I just start praying, because at that point I'm like, he's coming back today. Today's the day. Jesus is returning. Something's different. Something's going on.
Yeah.
Dude, I think you guys would get fired up over the bow mounted decoy. Like, if you could not get shot on public with it, you probably wouldn't, because if you had a bow mounted decoy this big in Kansas, they're like,
I wouldn't put it past an individual. I've seen enough super
anything's
people,
possible.
Like.
Yeah, that's true. I would love to hunt with that sucker in Kansas, though. I think it'd be sick.
Well, I can tell you that it might come in handy in the future, because I love what we're doing and we see some good deer. And don't get me wrong, I am not in any position to act like I kill big bucks. Like, I will kill a 120 to 130 every day of the week until I die. Not really, that's illegal in poaching, but you get what I mean. But dude, I am getting real tempted about this Western Oklahoma Milo, this spot and stock. I mean, I told him I'd almost do that and hunt 5 days in September, fall break and Thanksgiving break, and do 3 trips to Kansas and call it good. Just because, I mean, I know there's big deer all over Kansas. Kansas is Kansas, but we tend to see a lot of Pope and Young type deer, little, under, maybe a little above, and we'll see maybe, I don't know, what would you say? How many deer have we seen over 140? Probably the past few years, 10 to 15
Yeah, maybe.
on public. Sorry, on public. Now on private or when we're driving, they're freaking everywhere. But the western side, dude, like, I mean, I've got a buddy that was hunting central Kansas, and it was just stupid. He's like, I've seen 4 150s on public. They're not always in range because it's just big and open, but I've seen 4 150s this week. And I'm like, what the crap? Like, dude, I've seen 4 150s and maybe
life.
we've seen 4. Yeah, my life.
Yeah, my life. Yeah, 100%.
And
That's pushing it.
and
Not at all. of them.
everybody talks about like Milo. Dude, Milo's my fix right now. What I really want to go hunt early season, and like they just live in it. And so I'm really tempted to do some decoy, some potentially look at a bow mounted decoy, and I'm gambling on maybe trying the west side of the state, just trying to go for one of those monarchs. Because anytime I watch a video, even if guys don't kill, and again, the videos, no one posts, I hunted Kansas for 2 weeks and saw nothing. Here's my video of me seeing absolutely nothing. Like, no one posts those, but like, there's a lot of people that get eyes on them, and then it's a cat and mouse at that point. And I think that chess game would be fun. All right, here they are. How can I get on them? And we know they're staying there because it's early season, and the habits, the patterns, they're consistent. So I'm not far off on that bow mounted decoy idea.
I think if they had one, and they totally may, if they had one that you could kind of keep with you, like fold it up or something, that would be ideal. I haven't checked into them at all, but in 23, when we were up there, and I can't remember the last time we done a podcast with you. So if I've told this story, I'm sorry, but the day before I shot my buck in 23, I went to a random property, just kind of trying to get away from pressure. And, I hunted all morning, seen several decent bucks, but I got a migraine so bad that I was like getting dizzy in the tree. And I was like, bro, I got to get out of here. So I crawled down the tree. I'm trying to pack my stuff up all while not throwing up. And I hear something, and I look up the hill about 80 yards from me. And there was a buck that I had seen earlier, probably like 120-ish inch 8-point. And he's being pushed by, no joke, like a 170, like giant. I told Connor, I said, the biggest deer I've ever seen in person that close on the hoof, aside from the deer that were on the ranch that I worked at. I mean, all I saw was just dark horns. And I told him, I was like, dude, his G4s look like they were 10 inches tall, like just huge, massive deer. And he was pushing this 8-point down the hill, and he had his ears laid back. You know how they just do that, just hefty step kind of sideways. Well, this 8-point has literally got his tail tucked, and he's just slowly walking down the hill at an angle. And I'm just at the head of like a little draw, and he's just crossing it to the ridge that I'm on. And the big buck is hanging like 20 to 30 yards behind him. So I forget about my migraine. I'll be honest. I try to,
the healing powers of a giant buck.
Yeah.
So I pop an arrow out, I get my release on, and I just lean against this tree. And if they would have kept coming, like he would have pushed that buck at about 30 yards in front of me across that draw. I knew that probably wasn't going to happen because I could see the doe up behind him on top of the ridge that he was on. But I thought, I mean, 40, 50, like I'll take whatever I can get. He doesn't have a clue I'm here. Well, when they got down, the 8-point got to about 35, 40 yards. He saw me sitting on the ground. Well, he just tweaked out and blew at me and ran. And I looked up, and the giant is just standing there watching him and running off. And he's still just all bristled up, ears pinned back. He doesn't have a clue what's going on. And then he just turned around and went back to his doe. But I told him, I was like, dude, if I'd have had one of them decoys on my bow or something and just made a little commotion and he could have saw it, there is no telling what could have happened. So in that, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have had time to dig it out and get it all on in that situation. But if you can see a buck like that with a doe, in a field or something or anywhere, you can pop that sucker on and then, get yourself in the right position, and there's no telling what could happen. But I think personally that deer would have definitely probably come and tried to kill me, and hopefully I killed him first. Yeah.
How far was he at that point?
About 60 yards. And I would have 100% shot. But he was standing like at the edge of some like buckbrush type stuff. There's a lot of little gnarly trees in there. And I mean, believe me, I was looking for holes. But he just didn't give me any. Turn around and walk straight back up. But I tried to film a little bit of him on my phone, and that was an older iPhone. You can't see jack on it. But I told Connor, I immediately called him, and I was like, I'm going to tell you the story, and then I'm going to go to a hotel and try to pass out because I'm dying. But I was like, I just saw the biggest deer I've ever seen in Kansas. And like I said, it literally, what was crazy was the next day he come up, we hunted the same spot, moved over there where I saw that deer, hunted till the same time around noon. And then we're like, all right, we got to move trees like 60 yards because we were seeing these deer go to a specific spot. And we get down on the ground again. There comes another buck with a doe, and it ended up being the one I shot. So that's why he was referring to the fact that it seems like every dadgum time we get out of a tree, we have something crazy happen, which I'm okay with, you know.
Yeah, dude, I've only had one experience. I bought an Ultimate Predator, like decoy, the one that like a shoot through, and you can pack it up. By the way, they pack up to about like that. You just like kind of twist them, and you know,
nice.
And I popped it up on a doe in a briar thicket, and she was like 20 yards away. And when she saw it, and she stopped, and she did hit that, you know that usually this right here, and then after that is usually and a tail. She did that and was like, oh, what the heck? And just kind of like slowly did it. And I'm like 20 yards away on the ground. Yeah. And I took my time, drew back on her, shot right over her back. She ducked me like, but I drew back and I was like, it's just a doe. Don't freak out. Right. Like, see how long, like how she's going to react to this. And I like settled my pin on, I mean, it was probably like 10 to 12 seconds. Whereas before, if I would have moved in that briar thicket, it would have been instant. Right. And she was just like, what? It was just enough for her not to know, like, oh, that's a deer. Like, I see little horns, and that's the difference right there. And I was thinking, I'm like, if that was a buck, dude, I think I obviously still would have missed, but I could have got the right reaction.
Hey, maybe not, because
the Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. I used to be that guy lugging heavy gear down a steep hill after a big buck and regretting it with every single step. But now I use lightweight and dependable gear from Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and it has made a huge difference in my hunting and allows me to get to those hard to reach places. I do a lot of saddle hunting on public land throughout the fall, and a lot of those walks are 1 to 2 miles deep into the mountains. And in those situations, extra weight is not your friend. There's nothing better than walking through the woods and being able to get in any tree that you want. I've been running the Shakar sticks for a long time now, and the Ridge Runner 2.0 platform, and this past year I tried the Flatlander saddle from Out on a Limb as well, and all that gear is extremely lightweight and comfortable. If you want to support a 100% made in America company, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Once again, that is code HNTA15 for 15% off at outonalimbmfg.com. We trust Out on a Limb products for run and gun hunting anywhere in the country, and we hope that you will too.
With a buck, I mean, if he's feeling any kind of something, he might be like, okay, you want to do something? And I mean, he could have stuck around a little bit more, give you a better shot, who knows? But because I mean, that's all you need him to do is go, what is that? And is that somebody that's going to try to do something? Now at 20 yards, I might be like, bro, if you start coming in Kansas, that one that ran 600, 20 yards away, I'd be like, I might start flinging.
I'll get him with my knife when he goes to the side.
Yeah, I've seen some of the videos of them guys were like out in them big fields with pop-up decoys, and then bucks get to like 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, and they look like absolute like Brammer cows, you know, right there in front of them. Like, I'd be terrified. I'd be awesome, but I'd be trying to squeak a shot off as quick as I possibly could and then ducking. Like, he might think that decoy just jabbed him, you know? But yeah, I think it'd be a whole lot of fun. So that might be something that we look into for sure, because we've really been enjoying the ground thing. Over the last few years, we've killed more deer off the ground, and every time we're like, we got to do this more. It's so fun, and it opens up so many more doors, especially on days when there's like bad weather. You know what I mean? I've killed a doe this year off the ground like that. Just, it was raining and windy and nasty, and I called him and I was like, well, I was going to go. And I was like, you know, screw it. I'm just going to take my GoPros. I'm just going to go walk. And I literally, it was early season, but I didn't walk 20 minutes, and I killed a doe coming out of some thick bedding. She walked out and I literally shot her at 10 steps off the ground. I had to stop her because she was moving pretty quick. Deer seem to move fast in high winds. I don't know what it is, but they do. But yeah, I stopped her and she looked at me like, uh-oh, like it was too late at that point. But shooting them off the ground is so fun. So we're probably going to start doing that more.
That's why West is tempting, especially because we are on year 3 of applying to Iowa. And so we know that's going to be coming up probably in, I don't know. I'm sure by the point we can go, it's going to take 15 points to draw in. I
Sure.
don't know.
In
But
2035.
yeah, well, I'll be 40 at that point. But we're we're applying to that. And I told him, I said, I'm thinking about before we go to Iowa at some point, I'm gonna go try a Western Kansas type deal and spot and stock and doing something on the ground. And there's some places we got some guys that we know over there, and we work with Elevate Stand Company, and they're over there out of the west side of Kansas. And you talk to them, they stand hunt a little bit, and you can find some good cottonwood areas that they can move through and different things like that. But a lot of them are like, oh yeah, that ground stuff it's a blast. And so the more I talk to people that do it, I'm like, you gotta stop talking to me, or I'm just gonna go do it. And I'm getting pretty close to saying why not. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe next year.
Would you change your arrow setup at all for that? Because like whenever you're describing it, like using the pop-up decoy out in those open fields and the open areas, it reminds me of pronghorn hunting. And like with pronghorn, it's like you don't want a heavy arrow because you might be trying to sling it, 60, 85 yards, something like that. And so I just didn't know, it's like, do you kind of expect them to get within 60 with the pop-up decoy like that? Or because like it did be a whole new experience for me as well.
Yeah, it would for us too, but I don't think I would, especially because I feel like most of the time, if you're using a pop-up decoy and you have one's attention, he's probably coming in relatively, I would say within 30 yards, 40 yards at least. And man, especially in Kansas, those deer are so much bigger, and not knowing what position you're going to be put in, you might have to shoot him quarter in two. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I had several penetration issues back 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when I kind of dove into all the arrow stuff. I'm at 500 grains now. I don't think you got to go that heavy. That's just what I ended up at when I had these last arrows built, and I've been shooting them for 2 years now, and I absolutely love them. I shot 7 deer with my bow last year, and I've shot 3 this year, and I have passed through every single one of them. Broke bones, broke shoulders, and I shoot a 2-inch expandable. But that would probably be why I would leave it. I mean, I feel like most of the time, if you're going to be shooting at a deer over 30 yards, spot and stock style, it probably doesn't know you're there. You know what I mean? Just in my opinion. So you'd probably be okay. And I mean, without that extra 15 feet per second, that's just my
I
opinion.
can't go lighter. I'm shooting toothpicks, bro. I'm already
What are
shooting
your arrows
light,
weigh?
so oh shoot, I can't remember. 365, 353, something like that. But I mean, hey, I'm shooting. I'm a little guy. I got 70-pound draw, 26-inch draw length. We went to the Elevate shoot this year, and they had a competition, and they were giving away stuff. They did a 100-yard shot, and everyone's flinging at the same target, and they had a little sticker on there. If whoever got closest won a prize, and they did like 3 shots, and I freaking smoked the second one. We get up there, and they're like, "All right, who's shooting the kid's arrow?" And I was like, "That's me. I'm shooting the youth arrow. I'll take that one." But
But
no,
How
I'm shooting
fast are you
light.
shooting it?
Man, how fast am I shooting?
It's got to be blazing.
Oh,
It's, I mean,
That's
for a
70
for a
pounds.
short
70
draw
pounds.
length, yeah, for a short draw length, I want to say I was in the 280s, 270s.
What's your draw length again?
26.
26. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And he
don't know,
shoots fixed too. So that helps. Like he's not worrying about trying to punch a big mechanical through. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
helps.
We don't have to get to that debate. I'm old school all the way through, but I will say that, I mean, I have tried to go heavier. I did buy some arrows and went to a heavier spine, and dude, my bow couldn't shoot them. I took them to an arrow shop I really trust. I mean, I would shoot 3 of them, they'd be great, and then I'd have 4 or 5 that like I was losing arrows. To get to the point that I thought I was like, I mean, I'm not cocky, but I feel like I'm a decent shot. I'm a pretty good shot. I practice doing a lot of target shooting, getting ready, and I was all over the place. And I was like, that's it. I just can't shoot anymore. And put on my old arrows, I was dead on. And I was like, what the heck? So I went to a guy, and he was like, dude, your bow will just straight up I can't get these to paper tune. I can't get them to do anything. And then I put a new arrow on, and he had me in bullet holes in 5 minutes. So I tried once, and dude, it sucked because I bought a dozen of them. And I was like, well, that was a freaking ticket. And I'm sitting there going, does any youth kid want to buy some arrows that I sell? Because they're already cut, and I'm trying to sell them to people, and finally got them sold where I got, part of my money back. Someone's like, yeah, my kid might use them. We'll take them for a cheap price. And I was like, sure. somebody buy them, please. But so I tried going a little heavier, but I just went back with what's been working. And I mean, I would say I have only shot, out of all the deer I've killed, I've only shot one deer that I did not pass through. So, but I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that's flinging at 60 normally, though. Like, the furthest I've killed a deer or shot at a deer in general is 30 yards. So I shoot them 30 and under. And to me, when it comes to, I don't like doing blood trails because I'm colorblind. And so I have to basically have someone else do that for me. But most of the deer I shoot, I watch die. And I try to take pride in that because I don't like blood trails. And if I need one, I can't follow specs for 80 yards and then I'm getting blood once it's coming up out of him because I didn't pass through. So that's why I feel like I need pass throughs. I need blood. I need something to follow. Because I mean, you can ask Trey, like, I can tell something is red 100%, but whenever the eye doctor does that test, say, what number do you see? And I'm like, nothing. Or when you put red on a bunch of red and orange leaves, dude, he'll find a speck and then I'll walk up, like, I don't see anything. He'll be like, you don't see that big pile right there? I'm like, oh yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, I see it now. Like, I'm pretty bad.
I shoot mechanical just because I like the extra safety net, if that makes sense. Like, I'm a pretty good shot, but bad shots happen. And to me, I just feel a little safer shooting a big mechanical. Connor is very conservative with his shots that he takes and everything, which is why he says, he hasn't missed. Well, he's only missed one deer. I've been hunting with him for 10 years. He's not joking, at least as long as I've known him. I go a little more ham than he does. He's very calm, cool, and collected, doesn't take crazy shots. Me, I'm like 75 yards. I got it. So I like that little bit of extra safety net. I'm not out there taking dumb shots. So nobody jump on me here. But
unless it's big.
He just gets a little excited. Like, my favorite story to tell is, like, so I have this, once I know I'm shooting a deer, like, that's why this buck that I missed, once I know it's a shooter, I don't look at him, dude, because if I look at him, I'll get worked up. Trey will be like, okay, those are 12.5 G2s. Oh my God, look at those G3s, 13.5. Like, he'll have the whole deer analyzed. And me, I don't do that because if I do, I get worked up. And the buck I killed in Kansas, he was like, oh my God, look at those G2s. Dude, see his G3s? And he's filming. I'm like, shut up, dude. Stop talking about him. I know he's a shooter. And he's like,
he's definitely over 150.
Yeah, and he's like he's like, dude, he's a giant. He might be 160 plus. And I'm sitting there like, stop talking. I'm trying to do my thing. I need to get in my zone. And I see why he's talking about, like, how he goes ham, because I'm like, okay, now I'm getting freaking worked up. But once I know it's a shooter, dude, I just try to, like, okay, who cares what he looks like? Just relax. And I have a process I kind of go through, and it works pretty good. Then once I shoot him, I'll go ham after that. But it cracked me up, hunt with him that one time, because I was so close to be like, dude, you have to stop talking or I'm gonna miss this deer.
I'm the guy he's walking in and I've already got him killed, pictures taken, taxidermist, he's on my wall. And that's probably not a good thing, but to be totally honest, it's the way I've been since I was a kid. It's what makes me love every bit of it. And if I ever get to a point where I'm not like that, honestly, I wouldn't like it, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't even realize I do all that talking until I watch the video. And then I'm like, dude, I was talking a lot. Sorry about that. Like, but anyway, yeah, he's definitely calm, cool, and collected. I wish I was in those situations, because half the time he'll ask me questions. Like, he's like, where was he standing? And I'm like, somewhere right there, I think, but nice. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Which one of those are you, Jake?
Definitely the more ham. Like, I shoot first, ask questions later. Like, if I range it and it's a good one and I'm like, 75 ain't that far. You know what I mean? Like, one of those type of ordeals. But I think it's good to kind of like the yin and the yang that you guys do, right? You got one person that's like super conservative, then you got one person that's like, hey, like, let's get her done,
Yeah.
Because, like, I think it's just like y'all talked about, every hunt is so situational, and it's like sometimes, like, situations vary where if you fling a little bit further than you probably should have, you can always take a step back and be like, okay, like, I see what I did wrong. I need to be more conservative. But yet, the person that's like, okay, well, he just took a few more steps and I just wanted to make sure, like, rearrange them. It's like, no, I probably should just try to make something happen at that point. So, like, I think neither is wrong, but I think if I were to put something on it, it's like probably the person who's less conservative is usually wrong, but because
It's not
I am
that I
that person.
won't take far shots. I think Kansas has opened that up more. Like I take a lot of pride in trying to find the setup that I'm like, hey, he's gonna walk within 30, which everyone tries to do. But I really try to do that, and that's why scouting, it drives me nuts when we have to speed scout, because we always seem to scout on our busiest days for whatever reason. Because I hate going, dude, this is the spot, and then we leave, and I'm like, but I don't know what tree I'm hunting there. Like I want to know, like, all right, I want to be in this tree, and I think they're gonna do this. Now Oklahoma, I feel decent at it. Kansas, it's just, dude, you don't know, because of how open some of that stuff is. One day he might walk by at 10 yards, and the next he's at 65. And it's just, I think that's where Kansas has kind of got me to the point of like, if I feel confident, I'll let that thing loose. But if I don't, I won't. And Oklahoma, I've been pretty good about being close. And Kansas is the one that have been pushing it a little bit. And sometimes we've drawn back, and it's like, dude, I had 2 seconds, and then he was out of my range, didn't get a chance. But I will say Kansas is getting me out of my shell, I guess you could say, a little bit, almost.
Okay. Christian, now what about you? You're making everybody else feel guilty over here.
I just like to judge, so I'm good.
Understandable.
No, I was thinking about that. I think that it depends on the encounter, which one of those that I am. I would say, like, if it's a quick encounter, I definitely more go ham. Like if it's something that on private where I'm like, hey, if this deer gets away, I'm probably able to kill him again. Like I am a little more calm, because I had that buck I shot a couple weeks ago. He came in at 45 and started like throwing his head into a cedar, and I'm like, 45 is close enough to die. And like I just started to like almost draw my bow back. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, he's gonna come closer than that, you know? And then I shot him at 22 yards or whatever. But it's hard for me when I'm like, I know I can kill that deer there. Like I know I can kill him there. He's like 50. I'm like, I can kill him at 50. But I'm like, should I kill him at 50? So I don't know. I fight those demons. I think it just depends. If it's a giant,
I'm not gonna reference the
him.
video, but there is a video of a guy missing a giant, and Trey probably might remember the one I'm talking about. And this buck is clearly coming in closer, but because it is an insane buck, he shoots way too early. And I know in the moment it's hard to say that, but like the reason I missed this deer is like, that's why I'm like, the rut sucks, dude. He's sprinting 1,000 miles an hour, and that was the closest I've ever been to going ham, because it's just like, dude, I don't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's like so fast. And I didn't feel like I settled like I should. And then settled where I should to not hit the limb and get low enough. I was like, that's good. Boom, hit the limb. Dang it, dude. I didn't think that through. But like, I'll watch some guys and I'm like, man, it's good to take a breath and be like, all right, dude, he's going to be right here on a slam dunk. So like because if it's 45 and he's going away and you got your shot and you feel comfortable, because like I said, I've practiced a bunch. I feel pretty freaking comfortable out to 60 all day to hit exactly where I'm aiming, if the deer's in a position that he's not like alert and all that. But like if he's going to come closer, I watch some guys that'll take a shot at 40, 45, like you're mentioning. And like you said, you were like, dude, he's coming closer. Wait, you're good. And if it looks like he's about to bounce, then take it. But man, I watched that guy miss a giant, and I felt bad for him, because like, dude, that buck was going to be at what would you say, 15, 20 yards maybe?
Maybe.
You know what hunt I'm talking about, don't you?
I watched it first, and I sent it to him. I didn't give him my opinion, but I told him, I was like, tell me what your thought was after you watched, because the guy lost the deer. He didn't make a good shot. And it's what he said. He was like, dude, why? He was coming right to him. And I was like, yep. And I was like, that's exactly what I was thinking. But again, we're on the outside watching that. Like, you got a booner coming at you. I think he shot him at right around 30 yards. And again, the deer had stopped, but he had been working his way to him. The deer kind of stopped and quartered. And I get why he shot 100%. I probably would have done the same thing, because you're thinking, like, if he turns and goes back, like, he's gone and it's a booner. Like, I get that. So us sitting out here being like, he was working his way to you, like, we're just poking and pointing fingers. But yeah, it's hard to make those decisions.
You lose all thought process in the moment. And it's so like, that's why I tell him I have this process where, dude, I literally have to, it's weird what goes on in my head. I never stop talking in my head when this is going down, because I'm telling myself, like, okay, like analyzing, all right, he's coming closer, relax, you're fine, let him come closer. Okay, now he's getting away. Like, I analyze the whole thing, because if I stop, the minute I stop, it's like I black out, and it's just like, what happened? Where'd he go? Like, that's when I get the go ham part. So I'm literally talking like a madman in my head, and that's what works for me. Maybe not for other people. If they were doing that, they might go insane, but I have to kind of constantly be analyzing what's happening. When it's fast, there is no analyzing. It's just reacting. But when it's something that they're coming in, I try to do that, because I try to keep myself from losing it, because then I can at least stay a little more composed. And it's a system that has so far generally worked for me. So Lord willing, it continues to do so. If
Yeah.
these bucks would give me an opportunity.
Yeah, I like blacking out because then I don't have to blame myself after that because it's like I don't know. I don't know who to blame after this.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my
He
whole
said, I don't
idea.
remember. I don't think I even shot. I think he just ran away for no reason. What happened?
Yeah.
Somebody
Where'd
shot
my arrow go?
bow.
Where'd my
Yeah.
arrow go? I dropped it, I guess. Dang, lost that one.
Yeah, I think about it too in like terms of yardages of like probabilities. I know like my probability of killing one at 20, even if I like punch the trigger, even if I do something stupid, is like twice as high if I do it
Mhm.
at 40. And like every 2, 3, 4 yards that I can get him to come in, I'm like, okay, there's 5% more, there's 10% more, there's 20,
Right.
and I get him at 20. Like if my sight housing gets on him at 20, even if I mess up, I'm probably gonna kill him. Even if I smash that trigger. So like I try to be as disciplined as I can, but dude, there's
Mhm.
sometimes you just got to let her fly.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, again, we're talking about far shots and stuff. I've only killed one deer past 40 yards. I shot a doe at 62 yards one time and I absolutely smoked her. I've never shot at a deer that far since that I can think of. I've killed a couple on film around 40, I mean, I'm not out there flinging,
And
but
he's
I
a good shot
will
too.
in the right situation. I would definitely. But yeah, the further you get, the more crazy things can happen. And it's all situational too, because I'll go back a couple weeks ago. I'm still not over this. I'll try to make this very, very quick because I could go on and on about it. But I went into a spot a couple of weeks ago and I did not know that some tornadoes had come through and tore it all up. And this is just on how such, fast deer can react in crazy situations. I was fighting this tornado damage for like an hour trying to get into the place that I wanted to go. It was almost to the point of turning around. It was that bad. I thought I was in elk country. I was like, this is horrible. I fell and landed on my back and my stand and broke my backpack strap. Just was not good. I got up, I got my foot tangled in something, like to knock me down again. And I said something out loud. It might have not have been too nice. And when I did, 2 huge bucks got up out of one of those deadfalls 10 feet from me, scared me to death. I mean, I thought a bear was coming out of them. And one jumped up and run out to like 40 yards. I noticed he was a really big deer. And then I looked this way, the way the other one went, and he's standing at like 15 yards looking at me. And he was big enough that I was like, I'm just going for it. Like, I'm going to pop an arrow out and everything. I mean, stand on my back, everything. I was like, there's no way he's going to stand here, but I'm going to try. Well, he watched me do it all. And I ripped my bow back and all I can see is his neck up because he's behind a cedar. I was like, I'm going to take a step and try to see his shoulder. If he runs, whatever, like, we're here. About the time I'm about to take that step, he just walks out and looks at me and kind of quarters to me a little bit. We're talking 15, 16, 17-ish yards right in there. So I put it right on the point of his shoulder and squeak it off. And right as I squeak it off, I mean, he just bolts so fast. He wheels and runs. And it went right over his shoulder and hit him right in the neck. I don't exactly know where, but I watched my lighted knock just go right over his back, hit him in the neck. I called him immediately because I felt terrible. I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. This was just he was 15 yards. You know what I mean? You're like, I got this all day. It was just kind of a crappy situation. I did not expect him to wheel like that the moment I shot. But I told him, I went up, looked at the arrow. It had some meat on it and some blood. I walked 10 yards and there is blood spraying everywhere on the bushes, on the ground. I started sending him videos because there was spots, like huge spots of just sprayed blood. And he was like, dude, you hit an artery in that neck. Like, that deer is dead. And so then I got excited. I was like, well, this just went from like really crappy to kind of like accidentally good. I tracked this deer for 3/4 of a mile through this tornado stuff. It took me almost 8 hours of him bleeding the entire way. And every so far would stop and just bleed a huge pile. And over the course of the track, they got less and less and less. And then eventually it went to a clotted pile of blood. It was real thick, like he stood there for a while. It wasn't a bed. It's just like he stood there and bled. And then nothing. So I started calling dog trackers and they kept telling me, like, nobody wanted to come look for the deer. They kept telling me you wouldn't find him. They said, I either hit him in the brisket or the meat in the neck. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand how much this deer is bleeding and spraying. And they were like, they will, but it'll get less and less. And then they'll stop, they'll go on. You'll never find that deer. And I had one of them. He was like, dude, I'll come charge you $250 to look for him. He's like, but I would feel bad about doing it. And I was like, okie dokie. But there's a long-winded way to say it's all situational. That deer was 15 yards and ducked my entire, I shoot 70 pounds at 28-inch draw. So my bow's not slow, and he ducked probably at least a foot and hit him right in the neck. I've had deer stand perfectly still that were looking right at me at 50 yards, 40 yards. You know what I mean? It's all situational. Anything can happen. But the further you get, the higher chance you have of one of those things going wrong.
Well, I've missed twice at 25 yards this year, so 100%.
Yeah.
At does. Now they're both does. So
Yeah.
I lose an arrow, I lose $80, I move on. I get a good meal, I move on. If that was a buck, I'd be so mad. I'd be throwing my bow out of the stand like Connor did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using a traditional now. I'm shooting my recurve. I left that in the woods. So if you want a Hoyt, it's in Kansas somewhere. Go find it. You won't be able to shoot it because it's left-handed and short draw. So sucks to be
Dude,
you.
that is probably the most unsellable bow on the market. Left-handed.
Dude, that is
and
no
short draw.
joke. Left-handed short draw. When I sell it, like I bought a Helix when they first came out, $1,200 bow, and a guy sold it to me for $650 because he was a dealer, and he said, I don't need this many bows. I just bought it to try. I got it from the dealer to try, or from the company. So he's like, I'll sell it to you for $650, and I was like, that can't be real. And he was like, call my store right now. They'll tell you it's real. So I called the store in Alabama, and they're like, yeah, he's got too many. I'm surprised he even asked for it. So he'll probably just give it to you for cheap. And I was like, he is. So I bought it and sold it. Was it a year or 2 years later? A year or 2 years later for like $200 more than I paid. And bought the Ventum when it first came out because they had a piece in there that you could switch the module to where it could go to a higher draw length. And I was like, that will make it where I can sell it better, because now I can just say, hey, buy it, get the module. And now you can go up to, those giant draw lengths where guys like, I shoot 70 at 31. My arrow goes 500 feet per second. I'm like, Jesus. I wouldn't know what that's like.
I shoot a 31.5-inch draw.
You're one of those guys.
And I got a Lift X, and it came out of the factory at 85 pounds. Now they took it down to like 80, and I was shooting. I was like, this feels like a gun. Like it's like,
That's
geez.
insane.
Yeah.
It is fast.
That's awesome.
I'm still getting ducked, so it's for sale.
Yeah.
Dude, his reach is insane. He could punch me through this computer screen if he wanted to right now. That's wild.
Yeah.
The thing about those long boys is like they don't get that hand-eye coordination. So
Right.
Exactly.
I will
There you
put
go.
that out there.
Yeah. I think the first time I ever seen Christian was at a TAC. And we had talked to you multiple times before that. I think maybe even done a podcast with you. And then we met you for the first time. I think the moment we walked, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6 foot. I don't know how tall you.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
6'3".
6'3". Okay, that seems pretty dadgum tall. Because the first thing I said when you walked away, I looked at Connor like, dude, he's freaking tall. I didn't know he was that tall. He didn't look that tall on the computer. Like,
Dude, I've
But-
done that multiple times to people. Like I met
Yeah.
the ranch fairy, and I was like, this is a very like short guy. And he came to the house, and like we were like looking eye to eye. I'm like, no, he's
Really?
a tall individual. Yeah.
I would not have thought he was that tall.
I thought he was like 5'7", 5'8",
Yeah.
like just normal average. No, dude, he's like my height. I'm like, dang.
Not
Yeah.
me, dude. Everybody knows I'm short. It's so funny. We were in Walmart in Kansas, and this guy is just mugging, like mean mugging me, like, what the heck, looking at me. And I'm like, what? I'm looking at him like, dude, why are you staring at me? Basically, we keep walking, and he's in camo. We walk up to grab a pop and everything, get ready to leave. And then the guy pops up and he's like, hey, are you guys Whitetail Mission? And we're like, yeah. He's like, oh, I watch all of your hunts, dude. He's like, I'm hunting Kansas for the first time. He ended up killing a buck. Shout out. I think it was Kevin. Killed a buck. And he's like, watch all your hunts and everything. And it's funny because when people see us, I know for a fact, they're like, dude, there's not that many short guys without a beard that hunt. I mean, most guys have beards. I grow that, and that's about it. And so I know I'm pretty recognizable just because I'm short. And they're like, yeah, you're the man that looks like a child that hunts in Kansas. I know who that is. And it's funny, especially when it's both of us, because we're pretty recognizable guys. Like, even when we went to the bow shoot with Elevate, this guy was like, I feel like I've seen y'all on a video before. And he's like, I don't know why. Short guy, tall guy. He's like, yeah, we hunt in Kansas. He's like, yeah, it was something about Kansas. And it ended up being one of your podcast episodes he watched on YouTube.
Oh,
He's
nice.
like, oh, Hunter's Advantage podcast. I listen to him all the time. He said, I watched that video. And he said, and then it made me watch some of y'all's hunts. He's like, you're pretty recognizable. And I was like, yeah, we get that.
Yeah, like, oh, that's that dad and his son that are out there hunting.
Yeah,
Oh my-
basically.
Yeah.
Dude,
We-
that's hilarious.
We've had that. What was it? Oh, back in college. That's how we met, was bass fishing in college. And I had a guy called my dad one time, and he's like, "Oh, I saw your son out on the lake today." And he's like, I think he maybe had his son with him or something. I was like 18 at the time. I'm like, no. No. And but yeah, it's funny. But we make a good team.
Yeah.
Dude,
Hey,
well,
that's why I want to try spot and stock. I'm 5'4". Come on, there's no way I can't
Dude.
like not be good at it. I have to.
You
be
might
good
be
at
a
perfect
5'4".
build.
problem out there
Yeah.
with that bow mounted
I-
decoy. They're like, that's real.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, when we're in a bean field, you're like, "Deer, get down," and I'll get down, and his like this much is up, and I'm just gone. I'm like hiding in the beans. I'm like, "Dude, you're not
grabbing-
even
get
down."
down.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like lay on your belly. Come on.
Dude,
But I disappear easily.
Yeah, a guy like Christian, you're like, squat down. I am. Like,
Dude, when I rewatch antelope footage, I'm like, dude, I was 4 foot off the ground. No one told me. Like,
yeah. Shoot.
I can't hide worth
They're
the
like,
crap.
Christian, hang back right here. Like, you're good. Just hang back.
Our buddy Carol did that where he laid in the beans
Mhm.
in like a bean patch in Kansas to try to like hide from the deer. And he
Mhm.
laid on his side and like completely on his side. And he was like, dude, I think this is going to work. And then like a few minutes later, he texted me and he's like, they saw me. I didn't move a muscle.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, stop. It
Yeah.
was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
I've snuck up pretty close to some deer. Like it's mainly out of season, which obviously at that point they don't give a crap. It's like they know you can't kill me. But I've done some sneaking up on some deer that I'm like, man, I felt like I could be good at this. I'm pretty easy to hide, I guess.
Dude, spot and stock. That might be the game. That
Mhm.
I
might be
know.
the game.
I might try it next year. I mean, hey, I might eat tag soup this year. So if I'm gonna lose $600-700, and what's the point of where I do it at? I guess.
Dude,
Never know.
I'll see you in Western Kansas. I'll be the tallest deer they've ever seen in Western Kansas. Like, that's still
That
7
bow
foot off the
at
ground.
decoy. They're like, oh
I-
my god,
Dude, I know that doe the other day when she saw my decoy. She's like, that deer's 6 foot off the ground. That makes no sense.
Damn.
That does not.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
dude.
Shoot.
awesome. Yeah.
That's
Well,
hilarious.
man, we appreciate you guys coming on. It's always
thanks for
fun to
having
talk
us.
with you guys. And we're trying to do more of this stuff in person, going into this next year. So we'll have to do one in person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
that'd
need
be
to
fun.
get
really
maybe
fun.
a weekend we go hunt together somewhere, and we can do a couple podcasts and hopefully put a couple deer down. That'd be pretty cool.
Dude,
Yeah.
heck yeah.
That
We
would
would
be
be
good.
down.
Well, like I said, we'll meet in the middle or something, because you guys are Texas, right? Or you are? Or
Jake's
you,
in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll meet somewhere. I mean, I'm always down to
Yeah.
hang out and hunt. So
Lose some arrows. I can
Yeah.
do that.
yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where can people check out y'all stuff? Follow along the podcast and the YouTube episodes and all that stuff.
So YouTube, you can just search Whitetail Mission, not Mission Whitetail. That's with Osseo Gear, and that dude has got way more following than us. But if you search Whitetail Mission, you'll find us on YouTube. We throw some posts at Instagram, Facebook, and we recently got into TikTok and have been doing that. I'm like, oh, I feel young now. We've been doing that a little bit, and then podcasts. We're just about anywhere you can listen to a podcast. We haven't recorded one since deer season started, and we even told ourselves we needed to, but we've been chasing deer instead and not doing well at that. So we probably need to throw a new podcast episode out. But we got some plans to do some stuff. And then at any point, if anyone ever wants to message us, we're always cool to talk to people and give tips or take tips. Like, for example, if you're a guy that does a lot of rattling and stuff, or, being vocal with deer, whatever that we talked about today, and you got some tips, we'd always love to hear some. So we'd love to hear from people, and we appreciate anyone who listens or watches our stuff.